webinar. We are going to be discussing a trip that we're very pleased to be offering next summer, called the Untamed North, Greenland to Iceland. This trip is one in a series of birding and natural history cruises that we will be offering next year in collaboration with our partner Zegrahm Expeditions. Joining me for this session here today is Victor Emanuel, our company owner and president. Victor is going to be offering an overview here of the trip, just sort of an introduction, and I will be taking you through the trip. I will be describing the route. I'll be describing the ship later on in the presentation, and then also show you a number of images that will provide an idea, a good idea, of what participants on this trip can see and expect. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Victor.
Well, we've been pleased to offer trips to some of the most wonderful wild areas of the world, places like the Amazon, like Antarctica. And this is another wonderful wild area. It's actually the first area that Europeans started settling, of course, in Greenland, Iceland, as they moved west. But it's also an area with wonderful wildlife and scenery. And we think it's a great time of year to visit on a superb ship to be on. We think it's going to be a very rewarding trip. And it's a treat to see some of the birds that we see in migration and non-breeding plumage, to see them on the breeding grounds. You get to know a creature better if you know other aspects of its life. A good example is the golden plover, which in breeding plumage is one of the most beautiful birds in the world. And there's a chance to see some very special birds like the ivory gull, which is not very easy to see anywhere. So I think it's a terrific trip. I hope you will enjoy this webinar, and I hope you'll sign up for it.
Okay, thank you, Victor. As I like to do on these presentations, I will frequently show a map, and that way it will help provide some grounding, an overall perspective really on where we're going to be and where you're going to be going on this trip. As the title of the trip indicates, this is a combined Greenland-Iceland trip. Participants will start with a flight to Reykjavik, which is the capital of Iceland, and then from there we will fly directly to Greenland, to Narsarsuaq. And by the way, as I pronounce some of these names, most of these names are Norse, and not always easy to pronounce at this point. It isn't essential that you necessarily are able to remember them. However, these are the places where we will be going. And so once we get to Narsarsuaq, we will be spending a couple of days along the south coast of Greenland here. And I've kind of broken this up a little bit, my slide arrangement, according to the areas, sort of in regional areas that we will be hitting. And initially, this trip will spend its time on the around the southernmost tip of Greenland, visiting Arctic Fjord, Brattahlid, and then Prince Christian Sund, which is actually in English Prince Christian Sound. And once we emerge from this sound, we will be working our way up the eastern coast of Greenland. Each of the stops that we'll be making will be in fjord country. From there, from the south, we will be, as you can see from the line, we'll move in a by northeast trajectory to up towards Skjoldungen Fjord, the community of Amassalik, Skergard Fjord, and Nansen Fjord. And then we will cut across the channel. We'll make that narrow transit across that channel of the Atlantic Ocean, and the remainder of the trip will concentrate on the western side of Iceland. That big peninsula that comes off the northwestern coast of Iceland is indeed the westernmost part of that country. Where it says Latravjard there, there is a cape there that is indeed the westernmost part of the island, and we will be visiting that. But other spots along the way include Bigger Island, Isafjordur, Flatey Island, before the ship then concludes, or the trip concludes when the ship arrives back in Reykjavik, and you will have a final morning to go on what's called the Golden Circle tour of scenic highlights of the Reykjavik area. prior to your return to the airport and your flight home. So without further ado, again, we're going to be flying. You can see on the route map here, you'll be flying to the southern tip of Greenland, and you'll be going to the Narsarsuaq area. This is your port of entry into Greenland. And one of the things that I will emphasize about this trip, that Zegrahm may have already referenced this in his introductory remarks, is that this is a natural history trip that also has got some strong cultural components, particularly for those who are interested in that. That option will exist throughout the trip. You can see, even though this shot is at a bit of a distance, you can see these brightly colored fishing villages. For people who are into their photography, there will be plenty of subject matter. So whether your interest is in walking around a town like this and visiting cultural highlights, museums, visiting shops, buying handcrafts, or simply getting out and walking on the tundra with your tour leaders, we think that this part of Greenland has got a lot to offer. As we move, once we're on board the ship and we start moving, we will visit Brattahlid. And Brattahlid is where Eric the Red, the father of Leif Erikson, began. He founded the first Norse settlement in Greenland. Here in this community, you'll have a chance to visit longhouses, a very old church, a Christian church, which was the first founded in the Western Hemisphere by Eric the Red's wife. There is also wildlife around Brattahlid. The offshore waters teem with marine mammals, seabirds. So this is a good representation of some of the things that you might see here. Wherever we go, seabirds along the cliffs, such as the northern fulmar on the top left, this glaucous gull in the top center, Atlantic puffin. And then when you get onshore or along the coast, you may see things like common eider, and of course the beautiful Lapland longspur, which occurs across the high Arctic region. So even if you're somebody who does not want to participate as much in the cultural activities, you can always just step outside and be treated to sites like this. Moving a little further west, you'll be hitting Arsik Fjord. This is a place where musk oxen occur. It is a good place to see whales also, and of course, some of the cliff nesting seabirds. I like this image because it shows people in the zodiac. It gives you some perspective on how close that you will get to some of the wildlife. And while I'm talking about this, it's important to point out that this cruise program includes a variety of activities. Everything from sailing or cruising rather on board the ship, to being in the zodiac for exploratory coastal cruises, to being ashore on foot. And here at Arsik Fjord, here is a sample of what it will be like. Whales in the water. This is a good place in particular for humpback whales, cliff nesting black-legged kittiwakes, and of course musk oxen. Some of you who may have been to Barrow, Alaska before may have seen musk oxen there, but aside from that, you have to get up to the high Arctic to see this special animal. From Arsik Fjord, Arsik Fjord represents the westernmost end of the route. From there, we will turn around and we will make the transit to the southernmost tip of Greenland, to Prince Christiansen, or as I call it in English, Prince Christian Sound. And it is a dramatic experience. It is a 55-mile-long narrow waterway surrounded by mountains, snow-capped peaks, glaciers, ice in the water. All through this transit, you will want to be on deck because of the photographic opportunities. There are towering so-called horn peaks, these isolated, rugged, pinnacle rock formations that tower up along the sides of the channel. Photographic opportunities abound. Of course, you're always out looking for wildlife. Here is a representation of some of the imagery that comes along with the transit of the channel. Here you can see an iceberg in the water, calved off of a glacier, no doubt. Now, as we exit the channel and we come out onto the eastern coast of Greenland, as I was saying, we will be visiting a number of fjords up and down the east coast of Greenland. Starting with Nefassorsak Fjord, this fjord is particularly famous for its glaciers, particularly the opportunity to see glaciers calving, in which they are dropping enormous hunks of ice off the face of the glacier. And as you can see here from this image, these people in the zodiac that are more or less front and center, right up staring at the face of this thing. And you know, these glaciers, these ancient, deeply cracked glaciers, get this blue color from the compression that occurs with the ice, and the ice loses its ability to reflect the full color spectrum, and it shines.
It's an exciting thing to see, because you hear a loud crack as the glacier starts to calve, and then you have this enormous amount of ice falling into the water and bobbing back up. It's a wonderful sight.
So here, also in the same fjord, this image on the left actually captures a chunk of ice on impact with the water and the spray and the turmoil that comes with that. This particular spot is also a place where you have one of your better chances of the trip to see a polar bear. It's not guaranteed. Seeing a polar bear is not guaranteed, but some of the more recent trips to this area have indeed encountered polar bears. This image on the lower right with these people on the zodiac not far away from the animal is pretty impressive. And then, of course, this mother with a cub, is clearly a hope for sighting. But again, here at Nefassorsak Fjord, it is indeed possible. From there, we will move north to Skjoldungen Fjord. And again, you know, these images capture the beauty of this region. Aside from the coastal fishing settlements and communities, entirely unpeopled, beautiful deep water fjords, towering mountains, snow-capped peaks, glaciers, ice in the water, dramatic rock formations, all of that comes in heavy doses, you might say.
There are few places in the world like that, Barry says, that are unpeopled. Antarctica is another one, the opposite end of the globe, but it is a very special treat to be in a place like that.
And, you know, and it isn't just about being on the ship at all times. As I indicated, there will be opportunities to get off and walk among wildflowers. This trip will operate in the late June, early July period, which is the ideal time to see wildflowers in bloom. And of course, with that come nesting shorebirds and waterfowl and other things. Here is just a nice, a simple representation of the diversity of color that is available in these wildflowers. Nesting waterfowl are around, such as these long-tailed ducks, and even the northern meteor can be found in Greenland in the summertime. From Skjoldungen Fjord, we will continue north to the community of Amasilik, and then on up to Skergard Fjord, and concluding our time in Greenland with Nansen Fjord.
And Nansen was one of the most famous Arctic explorers ever, and he was the mentor of Edmundson, who was the first person to reach the South Pole. He was an amazing man, so this fjord is named after Nansen.
Yep, that's right. Thank you, Victor. Amasilik, again, one of the interesting aspects of these communities is, you know, it looks spare, but the pride that these people take in the organization of their towns, the cleanliness, and of course, just the overall appearance, these beautiful painted buildings, the variety of color. In Amasilik, you will have a chance to partake in various cultural activities if you so choose. There are community centers, there are museums, there are opportunities to see folkloric dancing, people in their traditional garbs, a chance to see native art, and also purchase handcrafts. If you do not want to do that, there will be opportunities to walk around on the tundra outside of town to see a variety of nesting birds, snow buntings, Lapland longspurs, things like that. And of course, the wildlife. The near-shore waters are often very good places to see whale. There are a variety of species here: humpback, fin, sei whales. On the birding front, northern fulmar is possible. Great shearwaters will wander up to the far North Atlantic in the summer. Common eiders. This is a great place to see nesting eiders, which is one of the iconic birds of the summer season in the high Arctic. From the Maasvliet, we will work our way north to Skarsgård Fjord. Skarsgård Fjord, as you can see, has got these tidewater glaciers. Tidewater meaning where these sheets of ice empty out directly into the ocean. And of course, the calving that occurs creates these dramatic scenes of really stirring beauty with the aqua green water, icebergs, chunks of ice just about everywhere. As is readily apparent here, the subject matter lends itself to ample photography for those of our listeners here who might be interested in that. And of course, you can't talk about Greenland without talking about the geology. Greenland has got some of the oldest rocks in the world, some going back billions of years. And of course, there will be a geologist on board the ship, part of the Zegrahm staff, who will be presenting lectures as well as field interpretation. And, you know, whether your interest in geology is limited to just looking at beautiful rock formations and mountains, or if your interest is a little deeper than that and you're interested in things like minerals and origins and all that, this trip certainly has got that. Lastly, in Greenland, Nansen Fjord. And again, more of this stunning scenery. And one of the things that's nice about these fjords is that they're calm, they're protected. So you don't have to worry about rough seas when you come into these places. You're just simply cruising along, plying these tranquil waters, and taking photos and watching for wildlife. The whole scene is quite lovely, really. Beautiful experience. From Nansen Fjord, as I indicated, we will, well, actually here is a photo here of one of these glaciers up close. It's what's called a tidewater glacier, emptying directly into the ocean, and all these bergs, all these chunks of ice that have sloughed off the face or calved off the face of this glacier here.
Getting back to Nansen, it was actually Nansen's famous boat, the Fram, the Edmondson to Antarctica.
That's right. Thank you, Victor. Another place to see polar bears, I might add, is here at Nansen Fjord. And you know, if you look at this image on the top left, one of the real joys of a trip like this is the Zodiac experience, in which you board these rugged, durable little vessels, and you cruise around, and you get to places that you cannot get to otherwise, either on foot or aboard the larger ship. The larger ship could not get that close to the ice. However, aboard the Zodiac, you can do that. And it just offers an important added component to the trip. And, you know, if we're lucky, we will see a polar bear. After we cross the Atlantic, we will come to the west coast of Iceland. And the scenery in some ways is similar, yet it has its own flavor. And here you can see a clearly glaciated landscape with some of the remnant winter snow. And now, drilling down on this in particular, we will have several days in Iceland visiting Vigor Island and Isafjordur in the northwest before circling around the Cape at Latravjord. And at Vigor Island, you know, more of the same in the sense of from the wildlife experience. This area is home to at least 3 species of seals: ringed seal, gray seal, harbor seal, in addition to birds such as Arctic terns, more common eiders. For those who are interested, Vigor Island is one of the famous places for the centuries-old tradition of eider down collection. And so those who are interested in that will have a chance to see and learn a bit more about that. Of course, the nearshore waters teem with bird life: fulmars, Arctic terns, black guillemots, Atlantic puffins, so alcids, terns, gulls, seabirds, all of it here in abundance.
Because the Arctic waters are very rich in oxygen, unlike tropical waters, and so they support a lot more life in terms of fish and other organisms for birds and whales and creatures. So that's why the Arctic is, like Antarctica, it's such an exciting place to go, because that cold water is so rich.
That's right. That's right. Here is a representation of the landscape of coastal Iceland. You know, dramatic rock formations. Not, you know, unforested, of course, because of the northerly latitude. Isafjordur, this is another opportunity for cultural immersion. It's one of Iceland's oldest fishing settlements, and you can see these little longhouses that are here along the coast. And they'll be offered for those interested. Again, can't overemphasize this enough. For those that are interested in the cultural experience, you will have a chance to interact with locals and learn about this, learn about the centuries-old traditions here. For those who are more interested in natural history, hikes along the shore or hikes on the tundra will undoubtedly provide encounters with various birds that nest here: shorebirds, waterfowl, etc. As we make our way south, at that point we will come down to the cliffs at Latravjord. As I indicated earlier, this is the westernmost point of Iceland. These towering cliffs are home to thousands of nesting seabirds, and this is representative of what you're likely to see. Here we have a collection of alcids, including Atlantic puffins, which are always a big deal. On the lower right, you've got razorbills. On the lower left, black guillemot. You've got murres, 2 species of murres that can be found up there. And of course, nesting black-legged kittiwakes, big populations of kittiwakes in Iceland. As we come toward the end of the trip, we will visit Flatey Island. And again, at Flatey Island, there'll be opportunities to go ashore, walk in the village. And, you know, this is, many of these people make their living cod fishing or fishing for cod and for lumpfish. You'll have a chance to learn about that. More of these highly attractive painted houses. And for others, again, the opportunity to just see what wildlife is around, such as this. This whole region is, when you get out on foot, there's an opportunity to see shorebirds nesting. The summer season is when birds that we think of as passage migrants in the spring or fall in latitudes farther south, these things actually call home. These things call places like Greenland and Iceland home in the summertime. And you'll get to see these shorebirds in their breeding plumage, unlike in the fall and the winter when they're largely gray. Things like red-necked phalarope, purple sandpiper, common redshank, black-headed gulls with their full breeding dress. And then there are a few land birds around, things like snow bunting, for example. As the trip nears its conclusion, we will return to Reykjavik. There on the southwestern coast of the island. And in Reykjavik, upon disembarkation from the ship on the final day, your departing flights are not until the afternoon. For that reason, you will have an opportunity to participate in a morning-long tour of what's called the Golden Circle. You will visit Thingvellir National Park with remarkable volcanic features. You will visit the Gullfoss waterfall, which is what you're looking at right here in this image, which is a dramatic photo. That's where the Hevita River drops 96 feet over a couple of terraces. And then finally, you'll go to the Geyser Center, where it's basically a huge geothermal field where you'll have a chance to see active geysers. Now, if you're wondering about your method of transport, here it is, the 104-guest Hebridean Sky. This ship falls in the category of the small adventure cruise ship. It is a beautiful vessel featuring all suites. Every stateroom on board is beautiful. And there are 5 categories, I believe, of that. This is what the ship looks like on the outside, obviously. On the inside, here we have got examples of 2 of the suites from 2 different decks featured on top. I think any of us would agree it would be easy to call this home for 2 weeks. On the bottom row of photos, we have got some representative shots of what the interior of this ship looks like and other common areas. On the left is a lounge. On the far right is the dining room, very attractive. And in the center, you can see one of the outdoor decks featuring outdoor seating here. And so if the weather's nice and it's warm and clear, it's a great place just to sit and watch the scenery glide by. Now, representing Vent will be Machiel Valkenburg, pictured on the top left. Machiel is a European, and so he's very familiar with all the birds that you can expect to see on this trip. But there's certainly a lot more to this staff than just Machiel. Zegrahm, as always, presents a first-rate expedition team, including Mike Moore, their expedition leader, and then a range of specialists, including a historian, a geologist, an ornithologist, biologist. They really stock their team with a diversity of talent. And so these people, in addition to your event tour leader, come together to provide an all-around excellent travel experience. And to recap, the Untamed North, Greenland to Iceland, it will operate next summer in 2018, June 24th through July 3rd, with Machiel Valkenburg representing Vent. Space is fairly limited. The Vent has reserved 12 spaces on board this adventure. If you have any questions or if you would like to register or need more information, in our office, our operations manager, Greg Lopez, is operating this trip, and he is assisted by Patrick Swaggerty. Both of these men can be reached via email or phone number, or by phone. Thank you.
It's also today exciting that you're following the footsteps of some of the earliest European explorers. The Vikings were quite amazing, and they got to North America, as we know now, before any other Europeans to Finland and in the northeastern part of the United States. They also made it all the way to Sicily. Some of us were there recently. And so they were really some of the most remarkable sea explorers in the world. And you're following in their footsteps by going to these 2 islands.
So a lot of opportunity here: cultural, natural, history, historical, etc. I want to thank all of you for making time today to join Victor and I for this webinar, and we hope to see you on board. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Victor and Barry. If anyone has a question, you can type it into your screen and we can answer that now, or as Barry mentioned, you can call the office or email with any questions you might have. At the end of this webinar, you're going to receive an email with a couple of handouts for this trip, the brochure that gives you a detailed itinerary, as well as the bird and wildlife list from the 2016 trip that visited many of the same places, so you can get an idea of the birds and mammal sightings that were seen in each location. So again, thank you everyone for attending today, and yeah, we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you so much.